This is Japanese soy sauce clam pasta. Start by desanding the clams. Add 1 tablespoon of salt in a bowl, 500 milliliters of water, 6 cherry stone clams that are scrubbed clean. Put a lid loosely and soak it for 2 to 3 hours in room temperature. This is the most crucial step when cooking clams. Depending on where you source the clam, it can be filled with sandy water. You can't really tell by looking at it, so might as well clean it. The clam is alive, so it's not going to spoil the water or anything. Although I recommend not going over 3 hours in room temperature just in case there's a dead clam. You can also store it in the fridge for a day, soaked in fresh salt water. Okay, now, let's move on to boiling some salt water for the pasta. Probably the only Italian-approved step in this recipe. While the water boils, let's cut some vegetables. Slice 1/4 of a medium onion, 1 scallion, and 2 shiitake. In Japan, we have a category of food called yoshoku, which translates directly to Western food. When it is supposed to be an authentic Western food, the category changes to the country name. So if it is an Italian restaurant, the category will say Italian, the Japanese phonetic pronunciation of Italian. And if it says yoshoku, then it usually means Japanese Western food, which roughly translates to, I'm going to sneak in soy sauce, dashi, or ketchup somewhere in it. But culturally, yoshoku was like a gateway to the world, especially for anyone who grew up in the 80s and before, when we didn't have that many access to foreign food. It was a very special treat, a little taste of the world, albeit Japanified. Now let's go back to boiling some pasta. Boil 1 serving of pasta for the recommended time. From here, we're going to time it so the pasta and the clams finish cooking at the same time. So move quickly. If anything, make sure that the pasta finishes cooking last, so it doesn't sit around and dry up. We'll be using a pan that has a lid to cook the clam. Heat the pan on medium heat. Melt butter in a pan. If you are using unsalted butter, make sure to add a little bit of salt. You can also swap this with olive oil if you want to. Also, don't forget to stir the pasta once in a while. Once the butter starts to bubble, add garlic and onion and saute for a minute. Add the shiitake and saute for 2 more minutes. Add 1 tablespoon of sake, 6 clean cherry stone clams. Put a lid and steam until the clams open. Also, don't forget the 2 tablespoons of pasta water. It took about 5 minutes for all my clams to open. Sometimes some clams just don't open, and those are probably the dead ones, so just throw it away. Once the clams open, add scallion and the drained pasta, and mix it until the sauce is well incorporated into the pasta. Now is also a good time to taste how salty the sauce is. Some clams just absorb more salt, so it could end up being pretty salty. And depending on how salty it is, I adjust my soy sauce. Or sometimes I add more pasta water. And if I think it lacks in flavor, I add a little bit of dashi powder. I think a lot of us, when we cook something that we've never cooked before, we tend to follow the recipe to the T. And that's when we end up failing. I like to think that recipe is just a guideline, and you could adjust any recipe to your taste. And now we have Japanese clam pasta. Okay, I'll see you next time.